Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me for an author's afternoon in the locker room. I'm Alan Locher. William Jimeno is an immigrant, an American, a survivor, and the author of Immigrant, American, Survivor, a little boy who grew up to be all three. William's co-author and illustrator of the book, Charles Ricciardi, is an author in his own right and a filmmaker. William and Charles are here today to discuss the important lessons at the heart of their new colorfully illustrated children's book. The story documents William's experiences as a Port Authority of New York and New Jersey police officer. As a first responder at the World Trade Center when the Twin Towers fell on 9/11, William was trapped under the rubble for 13 hours. Readers of Immigrant American Survivor follow a young Jimeno who immigrates with his family to America and his New Jersey home, not far from the alluring New York City skyline. The illustrated book guides readers through some of Jimeno's relatable ups and downs, from his childhood days to his journey to becoming a police officer, to his recovery, and his reflection upon his own experiences on September 11th, 2001. As the 20th anniversary of 9/11 approaches, Immigrant American Survivor pays important tribute to the many heroes on that day for a new audience of young readers who may not be familiar with the story. Please welcome to the locker room authors William Jimeno and Charles Ricciardi. Guys, am I pronouncing your names right, I hope?
Yes, Jimeno.
Yes. Jimeno. Good. Thank you both for being here.
And Ricciardi is also.
Ricciardi. Yeah, I went to school with a Ricciardi in Jersey.
Oh, nice.
College. One of my best girlfriends was a Ricciardi. So, William, thank you for your service, first of all, as you know, in the Navy and also as a police officer.
Thank you very much.
You know, people, I really believe, you know, we all need to say thank you more to our servicemen on all sides. Congratulations on the book.
Oh, thank you. Very proud of it, and thanks for having us on here today, Al.
You're very welcome. Tell me how you both met.
I actually met Charles after several years of people asking me to write a children's book, and people would always ask me, and I'm like, listen, I'm just a cop. I don't know how to write a children's book. And I was trying to write my other book, which comes out in August, but I was at lunch with actually Charles' sister and his brother-in-law, and his brother-in-law said, hey, you know, your story, you really should write a children's book. And I said to Mark, I said, listen, people always ask me, how am I going to do this? And he said, hey, why don't you get in contact with my brother-in-law? He already has a couple kids' books out. And at that point, I reached out to Charles, and I'll let Charles tell the rest there.
Sure. Yeah. So, I got a call from my sister asking me if I would talk to Will Jimeno about the possibility of writing this book. And I had put together two children's books before, where I was doing the illustrations and the writing and just coming up with the ideas. And was happy to talk to Will and share what my experience was. I really didn't think at the time that we were going to pair up and create the book together. That Will was just sort of looking to find out, you know, in my mind, like how he was going to go about doing it. But then a couple of months passed. This was January of 2020. Couple of months had passed. The pandemic hit. I was doing some more drawing, and I was curious if Will had started this, and I reached out. And he said he hadn't gotten to it yet. And that's when I asked him, I said, if you want to do this together, I would love to help you in any way, help you write it. Of course, I want to draw the pictures and see if I, you know, bring this to life. And that's how it started.
You know, Will, I'm fascinated that people were saying to you, like, that I think it's an interesting, so fascinating to me that people were saying to you that your story should be a children's book. I mean, it's, you know, when you first hear your story, it is sort of a heavy story as well, you know, the full scope of your story. But, you know, when you first heard that as a children's book, what went through your mind?
Well, again, it was more so like, you know, how am I going to do this? I'm not thinking about this, but it was always kids, parents, and educators that kept asking me. And it's funny because, you know, I do speaking engagements, but I don't do it for a living, and I never intended to do speaking engagements. I started doing speaking engagements because my neighbor in 2003 in Clifton, where I was living, said, "Can you come talk to our third and fourth graders? They're scared to get on planes. They're scared of the terrorists." And I didn't know what I was going to do or say, but I got him. I put my uniform on. I wasn't walking right at the time, and I walked in and I just told them a story without having to get deep, too much into details as to the loss of life and all that. And I brought it down to their level. And since then, I've been able to talk to, honestly, from second graders on up. And it just
Incredible.
comes up from my heart. I've never written anything down. So when I started talking to Charles about this, I just said, and I remember Charles said, "Well, how do we do this?" I said, "Well, I'm just going to talk the way I would talk to children." And it really was a great, relationship, because I would tell Charles what I wanted, what I thought. And I still remember the first time I looked at the book cover, I had given him ideas and he brought it to life. And I was like, wow, this just came to life. And as we continued on, uh, you know, telling the story, it just molded itself from me talking, Charles illustration and advice. My wife Allison, helped out too. And one of the things I wanted to show was that hey, we're all from different places. The only person that can claim the United States is the Native American. So, my mom always instilled in me, like, listen, this is our country. Bring your Colombian heritage. I was born in Barranquilla, Colombia. And she said, listen, you don't forget where you came from. You bring all the good stuff from our country and you make this country a better place. So you can definitely see from the cover that I love America. I love this country for everything that it gives us. Of course, we show the Statue of Liberty, which we're so proud of, the
Mhm.
original world, the Twin Towers. And then, soccer's universal, and Colombia. So I was able to put the colors of the country I was born, because I came here when I was 2 years old. So I'm still proud to be Colombian, but I'm an American, and I'm proud of that. And I'm
Right.
proud as an immigrant, I'm able to give good things from our heritage.
Well, I love the photo that I have that I used to promote this, of the two of you standing with the statue behind you. It's a great, great photo. Charles, do you remember? I don't know if it was your sister on the phone or talking to Will. What did you think when you first heard his full story? Coming here 2 years old, you both fell in love with the New York City skyline. Him being in the Navy, then a police officer trapped. All of that. I mean, did you what do you remember hearing it, and what your reaction?
Yeah, Will and I spoke a lot, early on before we did a whole lot of writing. We just really talked about, his story, his path, and what he went through. And the more I heard him talk, the more I realized this is just going to be really a great children's book, because Will, and I'm sure, and I've never seen him speak to children, but just through our conversations, he's very positive, and he's always talking about keeping a good attitude and pushing forward. The central theme of the book is never giving up, and he's taken it to heart, and he wants other people to take that to heart. I love that message, and I don't know who doesn't. And so that would everything else is great.
Nunca te rindes, right? Nunca te rindes. Did I say it right?
Nunca te rindas. Nunca te rindas.
Nunca
Yeah,
te
it's very good what you
rindas.
said.
Well, tell us, because that comes from your mom. Well, tell us. She has said that since you were a little kid, right?
Well, yeah, my mom was not only someone that told me that never give up, nunca te rindas, but she was an example of it. Both my parents, my dad was a welder, my mom was a beautician. They got to this country and they worked hard. My dad was appreciative. He said, "Listen, while you have a good work ethic, this country will give you the opportunity." And they never gave up on their dreams. They wanted to come here. We settled in Hackensack, New Jersey. The dream was to buy a home, and through hard work, they always led it by. They ended up buying our first home in another part of Hackensack. I still remember it was fourth grade. I mean, from 2 years old up to fourth grade, we always lived in apartments, and it took them a long time, but they saved their money, and they're still living in that house right now. And my
That's
dad, I always
incredible.
say he's gonna die.
Nope. He froze. Yep. He'll come back. He'll come back. What
Okay.
I said earlier that both of you had the New York City skyline meant a lot to each of you. Do you remember the first time you saw the skyline or were impressed by it, Charles?
Well, yeah, as a child, I remember being brought into New York City during the Christmas holiday, with the family. We didn't go into New York a whole lot, but we would pretty much every year or every other year go into New York to, walk around, see the tree and other things like that. And I was just captivated from day one, being near Radio City Music Hall and Rockefeller Center and, down in 42nd Street, that area. So it was just very exciting. And, it's funny because the more Will and I talked, he went to Bergen Community College. I spent 2 years at Bergen Community College. He was a paper delivery boy. I was a paper delivery boy.
The three of us.
There's not many of us left.
No,
yeah, so we just and then
we all delivered the same paper. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, super amazing experience doing that, having that job at a young age, but we just had these similar experiences and loving New York. And I went on to NYU and live in New York City and, just really drank it all in. The city is amazing. So, and obviously being here during 9/11 was a very painful time, so that was very, personal to me too. So the project was.
Do you live in the same area that you lived? Are you living now?
No.
Where you were on 9/11?
No, I was living at the time. I was living on 12th Street and 8th Avenue near Hudson. So it was unfortunate, for a lot of reasons. I was working in New Jersey, and when it happened, and they shut down everything below 14th Street, so I couldn't go back to the apartment for quite some time.
Wow.
But yeah, so but it's obviously tough being in this area during that time, tough being anywhere. But then to go back to the story and then revisit some of these images and revisit, not only Will telling it, but also some of the photos and those things that you see again. It was good to go back and make this an important, good story for children. But it's tough, on that level.
Oh, completely. When did you realize you could draw?
I just always did it. Like, I had this passion for picking up pencils and drawing dinosaurs and spaceships and monsters as a kid. And I would just, kind of put these comics together where I would create page after page of comics. My dad would bring home, extra paper for me to draw and different things with boxes, and I would just keep creating. And then it was I went to film school. In high school, I started getting into movie making, and I went to NYU and I studied film, and I loved it, and I still do. But when I'd worked on a documentary about a movie poster artist, Drew Struzan, who created the Star Wars, Back to the Future, Indiana Jones movie posters.
And was that?
And through that, sorry, you go.
Yeah, no, go ahead, because I was fascinated by that. Are you? Hey, Will.
Hey,
welcome back.
I'm back. Sorry, I don't know what happened.
It happens. It happens. It's the internet.
Okay.
We're just talking about Charles's documentary. Were you a fan of those movies and those posters? Is that what drew you to make the documentary?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I grew up a Star Wars kid, Indiana Jones, Back to the Future, anything in the 80s, late 70s, 80s, I was just a real sucker for. And his artwork was, inseparable from that experience. The director of the documentary, we had made a comedy movie before this, the documentary, and we actually we were both fans. We called and got Drew to paint the poster for that comedy film. So that's how we got to know Drew. It was called Sexina Popstar PI, which is just a funny movie starring Adam West, who was the old Batman on TV, and Davy Jones from the Monkees. Davy Jones sang the theme song, so it was a cool movie.
Oh my God, that's so great.
Yeah. So it spawned this relationship. That documentary, when we worked on it, we saw great people and interviewed great people, and really opened the door for. I started just wanting to draw more, and I got myself, more materials to do that and spend some time doing it, and that's how I really got hooked into storytelling again in a different way, but with pictures and words.
And did your desire to be a filmmaker come from Star Wars and all those films in the 80s?
I would have to say, if objectively looking back at it now, I think it was the Star Wars movies and a lot of the behind the scenes clips and films I would watch about how they made the special effects and how they designed the spaceships and the explosions. I mean, that was just fascinating for me. And of course I collected comic books and just collected movie cards and all that crazy stuff. I just was really absorbed.
That's great. Will, you talked about your family immigrating here when you were 2, but for you, that's a young age, so you didn't really know what that meant. When do you think you understood that your parents were immigrants in a different country? Do you have a clear?
You know what? I've been blessed. I always tell people, I think I just grew up in a great town with a lot of multicultural people. I never felt unaccepted in this country. I know people have. I know people have challenges. And listen, I think the first time I realized that people didn't really understand immigrants was in the Navy. And it was the silliest thing, to be honest with you. It was my bunkmate, and he was from Louisiana. And once we got to know each other, I remember the first couple of days, he kind of says to me, what are you? And I'm like, what do you mean, what am I? And he's like, well, you're not white and you're not black. And I'm looking at this kid like, whoa, what are you talking about? Because I grew up with everybody. I mean, literally, you name an ethnicity, I grew up around it. So I never really looked at it like that. And he grew up in a town that only had, I think, he told me maybe 150 people in the backwoods of Louisiana. And he goes, well, you're not black, you're not white. I said, no, I'm Hispanic, I'm Spanish. And he goes, I've never seen one of you before. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, wow, But I never took it as, I have thick skin. Where I grew up, you had to have thick skin. Race wasn't a factor for me growing up. I know it sounds terrible to people today, but it did.
No, but that's good. I mean, that's what it should be. That's what our country should be.
We accepted each other, and it made me stronger when I went out to the real world. So when this young man said this to me, instead of me getting upset, I said, well, what do you mean? Why? What do you mean? And they explained, it's where I live, we don't see anybody else. And I started realizing like the importance of broadening your horizons. I tell people, listen, travel the world, go see as much as you can. You will learn so much about other people, but more importantly, you'll learn a lot about yourself. So hence the book, Immigrant American Survivor. I want to teach children from not only the United States, from around the world, that we're all the same. We cry the same, we bleed the same, we have the same happinesses, the same joys, the same sadnesses. And this book, talks to that if you're coming from a different country, you might run into some issues, but that doesn't mean you don't stop trying. I want to instill in people that strength that I was brought up with. My mom told me one thing: I never want to hear you cry that you're Hispanic. I never want to see you use a crutch. You're as good as the next person, no matter what color, where they're from, how much money they have. It's about you believing in yourself, you working hard and moving forward and getting over obstacles. And again, my mom led by example. One thing is to do this. Another one is to actually show it. And just to case in point, my mother, till this day, has the thickest Latin accent. She went to Bergen Community College in New Jersey at night while still working full time to learn English. I don't know if it did much good, but she tries. And my mother we will chuckle at her because sometimes she'll say some crazy Spanglish word and my kids laugh. And instead of her getting upset, she turns around and said, teach me. Make me repeat it till I get it. And she still might sometimes not get it, but she'll always be that person that says, you can laugh at me, it's okay, but teach me. And
that
was an example to me of never giving up. So she doesn't get upset. Like, you can laugh at her, but she'll turn around and say, teach me. And that, that really, and that takes somebody who might be laughing and saying, oh, wait a second, this person actually wants to learn. She turns the tables on people like, that's okay, you can laugh at me, but now teach me. Now let's see if you're smart enough to be able to teach that person.
I love that. Yeah. Before I forget, I want to tell everybody that the book is available on Amazon.com, and also you can buy it from the 9/11 Memorial shop, which I just put the link up to. Both of my parents moved here from Holland in the late 50s and were immigrants. My mother didn't go to Bergen Community to learn English. She actually watched the soap operas that I worked on. That's why I started watching soaps, is because she learned to speak English watching them. But I love all of that, and I love that message. Especially, we all know that immigration was such a hot topic and sort of an awful topic because people were treated differently. Like you say, we don't want to treat people differently, but people were over the last couple of years. And I think it's so important that you're putting out a book today to talk about that and to talk about, this message of never giving up. Don't, you're not different from anybody else in this country. We all bleed the same, cry the same. So bravo to both of you. I mean, I think it's really the right time to be teaching children these messages.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think, listen, at the end of the day, we as adults, we deal with all our problems, whatever they are, but we need to inspire children because they're our future. At the end of the day, they're our future, and we need to instill good in them. Do we want them to be individual thinkers? Yes, but we want them to also understand to be kind to each other. And I think we need more kindness in this world.
100,000% on that.
One thing I'd like to add, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
one thing is just
it's
the unity in the book that I want. As another thing that I love a lot is just that it's not about politics. It's not about who you are. It's not about one group of people. This is a country for all of us, and that is, that's a very clear message in the book. I think we don't come out and say it, but I think people walk away with that feeling. I hope they do. It's we have to have that back. We can't keep dividing each other about, oh, they're right or I'm right, they're wrong. It's got to be all of us.
Correct. And whether you're an immigrant or born here, there's no difference. This message I love too is the friend of yours, Will, from the Navy, because he just was really being honest about the fact that he hadn't met somebody, and you helped educate him, and it really is about education. It really
absolutely
is.
And we became good friends.
Yeah, I mean,
we became
that's
really
the
good
message
friends.
Right there. Right, we all can be friends. We might come from different backgrounds, but we can be friends. Yeah.
Well, not only can we be friends, we can become family. I mean, September 12th, after the 9/11 attacks, nobody cared whether you were black, white, straight, whatever. It was, we were not only Americans, we were human beings.
Mm-hmm.
I tell the story of that. I was in Bellevue Hospital for 2 weeks. And if anybody that lives in New York knows, Bellevue Hospital is a busy hospital. They got shooting, stabbing. For 2 straight weeks, not a shooting victim or stabbing victim came in. The doctor said, people are just being kind to each other. Yes, at the end of the 2 weeks, the first stabbing victim came in. But for 2 weeks, people just cared about each other, and I wish we could, make that last longer.
We need that right now. It's really. Can you talk? You served in the Navy, and while you were in the Navy, you became an American citizen. Can you talk about that experience?
Yeah, so I joined the military after high school. My dad wanted me to go to college, be a doctor. Said, Dad, I'm not that smart. But I had this calling. I wanted to give back to America. So what I did was I joined the military. And I was very fortunate. I got on a great ship that we got to see 11 different countries. But during my time there, I really realized, hey, I love this country. And I started doing my paperwork to become a citizen. In my second year in the military, I became a U.S. citizen. It was a very proud moment. I remember raising my hand, taking that oath. I had already taken an oath to protect and this country. But now I was doing it as an American. So it was just a great day and something that I'm proud of, and it's something that I encourage other people to do. If you're in this country, you find a way. If you love this country, you become a citizen. There's just a pride in there that is.
Yeah, I think he. There he went again. Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating story, Charles, and it's also that he has. Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Good job. I was just going to say it's fascinating. I mean, all of the elements of your story that just work in the book too. I mean, the Navy, and then the pivotal moment. Talk about the pivotal moment when you decided you wanted to be a police officer.
Oh, well, that was since I was a little boy. I grew up watching all the TV shows, Adam 12, Blue Knight, Emergency.
But didn't something happen as well? Didn't something happen as well?
To be a police officer? Oh, yeah. So in the book, I do talk about becoming a police officer. But yeah, and this is actually true. I was a young man and I actually fell down the stairs and knocked myself out. And I remember when I came to, I literally knocked myself out. When I came to, there was a Hackensack police officer standing over me and bringing me back and helping me. And I remember they were just so their uniforms are sharp. They look great. And I just remember thinking to myself, wow, he's a superhero. And I remember that influencing me, at a very young age that, this is what I want to do. I want to help other people. And I still remember that day. Like I tell my mother, I said, do you remember when I knocked myself out? She goes, yeah, I remember you coming to. And the police officer was there. So that really was an inspiration for me to give back. I already saw my calling that was one of helping other people, and I know, in today's day and age with police and everything like that, but I've been fortunate to be around police officers and influenced by police officers that want to give back to the community. Yeah, do they deal with them? And listen, I tell everybody this. If somebody's going to tell me that, hey, all cops are bad, that's like, well, I can find bad parents, bad priests, bad everything. But the majority of people are good people. We do have our bad apples in every line of work, even as parents. But I wanted to be part of that group that helped people. I wanted to be that group that, you can go home and say, I made a difference in someone's life today, and that's what that police officer did for me.
Well, I'm going to tell you a story. I worked early in my career for Kathy Lee Gifford and Regis. And
love Regis.
And after Frank Gifford passed away, who I knew, and I knew Frank pretty well, I heard a story that I just loved, and I have tried to incorporate in my daily life. But he basically, I think it was Kathy Lee or one of their children had told a story that he would always say hello and thank you anytime he walked past a police officer or someone in uniform. And I just thought, because no matter what, they are there to protect us.
And it's true. I mean, again, I wish I could say thank you to every single uniformed person, every doctor, any nurse. Take it from someone who spent a lot of time in the hospital. Nurses are angels. So yeah, it's nice to give back to people. And listen, it's the same thing for you. If you're a teacher, it's nice to have a child come up and say, thank you, Mrs. So-and-so, for teaching me something today. So it's those small gestures that mean so much to so many people.
And I've noticed by doing it, like you could see, like they smile. It's just something that I really thought, wow, it's so easy to just say hello, say thank you,
And to your point, when I go do speaking engagements, especially to children, I tell everybody, you want to make somebody smile today, I tell the kids, go home, hug the person that's raising you, whether it's your parents, whether it's an adopted parent, whether it's a foster home. Go to those people that are taking care of you, give them a big hug and say, I love you. Watch their face light up. And kids do it, and they go home. And I said, now just imagine when you say that to a police officer, firefighter, and kids kind of understand, like, wow, I do have the power to influence somebody in a positive way.
Yeah. And I have to say that, Will, I mean, you visiting, students and children and talking to them, I just know that has a good influence on young people. I mean, I remember myself as a kid going to elementary school, and we would have the police officers and the firefighters visit, on an occasion. They sit there and talk to us, and we were thrilled, and it was exciting. And I just think that, it's like bridging that gap and making these people feel real, to the kids as they get older.
And that's what this book is.
They were heroes to us. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
And that's what, and that's fine. And that's what we did with the books. Again, we made them in English and Spanish because we want to reach more people. So we're very proud of that.
Love that. You both have 2 children each, right?
Yes.
Charles, you first. How did fatherhood change you?
Oh, well, I have a daughter named April. She's 13. My son Ryan is 12. How does it change you? It just, it shifts your focus. You realize what your priorities are in life, and it doesn't change everything completely. I still like to be creative, and I still do what I want, but I also realize, that what I want is to be a great dad, and to try to be around as much as I possibly can, and I love it. So yeah, it's just it's transformative.
And for you, Will?
Well, for me, to Charles' point, it definitely transformed me into being a more loving person, but also in a way, it's actually helped me save my own life, to be honest with you. I had to deal with post-traumatic stress disorder, and it wasn't until, after 9/11 where I was dealing with it, wasn't realizing I had it. And one day an incident happened, and later that evening I came back and I looked at my 4-year-old little girl, Bianca, and I said, "Does Daddy yell a lot?" She goes, "Yeah, Daddy, you scare me." And at that point, that's what it really propelled me to take on post-traumatic stress disorder, because I said, these terrorists would, through me, if I'm not a good father or a good husband, I would affect my family. So fatherhood, I also attribute to saving my life and seeking the assistance I needed for my mental health, because when your mental health is not good, you're also affecting those around you. And as a father, I would do anything for my children, even if I had to deal with myself, which I did. Of course, we don't deal in that in this book, but fatherhood has just been transformative for me. And as a survivor of 9/11, to have my second daughter be born on my birthday, November 26th of 2001, is just an amazing, amazing, you couldn't write this. You couldn't make this up.
Yeah, you couldn't write that.
this is
I didn't
happening.
realize she was born on your birthday. I didn't remember that.
Yeah, that was my birthday gift.
Wow, that's amazing. Talk about you became a police officer and your swearing in ceremony taking place at the Twin Towers. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so we're Port Authority police officers, New York and New Jersey. So we have all the major transportation facilities in New York and New Jersey: the airports, the bridges, the tunnels, the bus terminal, the PATH train, the World Trade Center. So we were the 100th class. We graduated January 19th of 2001 at the Marriott at the World Trade Center, and it was festive day. It was a great day for me personally. After 6 years of trying to become a police officer, finally happened. I was able to celebrate it with my beautiful wife Allison and Bianca. And little did we know that 9 months later we'd be back at the World Trade Center, but unfortunately, under attack. The Trade Center had so much meaning to me, especially after 9/11. I had only been to the Trade Center maybe 3 or 4 times for like some protests. They would dispatch us from the bus terminal to assist our fellow officers down there, because that was our command. That's why we lost 37 officers that day, the most lost in U.S. law enforcement history in one day, followed by 23 NYPD officers. And I just remember being inside
37
the World Trade
from the Port Authority police.
Yeah, 23 NYPD officers, of course, 343 firefighters, and countless civilians. But yeah, so it was a special day for us on January 19th, and then unfortunately, it ripped out our hearts on September 11th. We lost so many people from our department that it's crazy, But what I focus on today, 20 years out, is I want to remember all those people and talk about them, but I also want to teach children today, because the way I look at it, it's like when I was a child, when I learned about Pearl Harbor, and what I want kids today to learn, and through our book, is that bad things are going to happen. You're going to be faced with challenges, but that doesn't mean it's the end of the world. You have to understand that we're going to take losses. COVID is a perfect example, but you're going to be able to overcome it. And you know what? The one thing I tell people is you deserve to be happy. You deserve to keep trying to aspire to your dreams. And I want children to understand that. But I've been very proud, and both me and Charles, that not only are children learning from this book, we've actually had adults say, you know what, those are great reminders for me as an adult.
I would almost guarantee that it's great reminders, just what you've been through from, arriving in this country to surviving 9/11. There's, thousands of lessons in between that whole experience. And you were trapped for 13 hours under Building 2. And I assume when you said you were in the hospital for 2 weeks, that was 2 weeks after being rescued.
Oh yeah, so we actually had both towers fall on us. We were in the epicenter. We actually had both building 1 and building 2 land on us, which is crazy because we were like in the middle. We were going from 2 to 1 when everything fell down. But yeah, I was hospitalized for a long time. I mean, I didn't get home till just before the birth of my daughter, where I was still in a wheelchair. So being buried alive is something that I hope people hope. And again, we're talking about this, and you actually have people who recently have been buried alive and killed, unfortunately, and it's a horrific event. But I just tell people, no matter what happens, remember that when you look at the World Trade Center, nobody thought that 2 people were going to survive from underneath it. My Sergeant John McLaughlin and I are the only 2 to survive from under it. So I always give hope. And one of the things that kept me going while I was buried alive is, believe it or not, my Rolodex of positive things. And earlier in 2001 in Turkey, there was an actual earthquake. And I remember watching on the news, and I saw that they found a little girl, maybe she was 3, 4 years old, and they found her like 3 or 4 days after in the rubble. So that's why I always hold out hope for things, and that kept me going. So I tell people, we all have our own World Trade Centers, because people come up to me all the time. I can't think of anything worse than the World Trade Center falling. Well, I tell people, you just found out you got cancer. You lost a loved one. It could be as simple as a child not being able to think they can get over a test. We all have our own World Trade Centers, and they're important in your life. It's what we do with ourselves to overcome those World Trade Centers.
Well, the people of Surfside right now, if any of them ever see this interview, that is a great message, because there's a lot of grieving
our
people.
heart goes out to them.
Yeah,
our heart goes out to them, and I'm still holding out hope. I know it sounds silly, but every day I know they've been finding more. Unfortunately, people have passed, but you never know. We were survived 220 stories, and we're in a void. You never know. Hopefully, if somebody's still trapped somewhere, and hopefully they got access to a little bit of water, they could last. And I'm gonna hold out hope. And I never give up hope.
So amazing message. Well, amazing. I'm really, your story is incredible. Charles, you wrote a book about bullying. Where the night the bullies were bullied, where did that stem from? That idea? Does it relate to something in your own life?
Well, it was an idea that started as a feature film script that I was penning and working on, and I put it aside for a little while, and then when I started drawing again, I revisited, and I said, this might be something that I could put some pictures to and draw. The inspiration to that story, we all have our bullying stories as kids. I went through my little bout of a situation that I felt, was really a rough patch for me. And, as you get older, you think about these things, and you think about, you see your kids go through certain situations. My son had a little bullying episode in his life, and he didn't want to talk about it. He didn't want to discuss it with us. And, one day he came back with the rash all over his body, and, there was nothing wrong with him, but he just put the stress all inside and deep down. And it had just kind of came to the surface eventually, because you can't do that in life. You can't just forget or hide or pretend things aren't happening. So this story was just, I think I was really nudged by those things in my life. And this story was, in my mind, was a fun way to look at this real big problem where a boy who's bullied has a chance for, with some fantastical elements of the story, becomes this kind of like immortal kind of tough guy. And he has a chance to have revenge on all of the kids that bullied him. I
love that.
As he gets his meat hooks on this, he realizes that, really this isn't what he wants to do, because, just because you have the power to hurt people doesn't mean you should. And that was the idea behind that story. That's
great. I mean, it sort of even fits into your current book, because just, it's actually impressive, like just putting the word, I don't know why I say it, but immigrant on the cover of a children's book today, just because it was politicized, it's not something that should be politicized, but kids are being bullied because of that, around our country. And I think it's so important, your message, that we're no different, getting it out there. But
and I think kids that, I'm getting feedback from teachers out west, California, Texas, Arizona, that have picked up the book and are sharing it with their kids. And again, there's kids there in the schools that are immigrant, they're illegal, and they've been inspired by this book to understand that, listen, okay, this is my situation. I got to figure it out. I got to move forward. And you're lucky that you're here in the United States where you're going to be given that opportunity. And I just tell the kids, and I tell people, and I want people to remind themselves, is a simple way we can all get along. Treat people the way you want to be treated. And we all make mistakes. I want kids to understand that at a very young age, you're going to make mistakes. There's no such thing as a perfect person. Listen, I'll be the first one to admit, have I been bullied? Yeah. And have I been the bully? Yeah. And it's okay to say that, because when people think, oh, well, I can never be a bully. Yeah, sometimes just your words bully someone and you don't even realize it. We're human beings. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. The key is to treat people the way you want to be treated. And when you make a mistake, learn from the mistake so you don't hurt other people once again, or hurt yourself because you realize, hey, maybe I'm not making people feel comfortable. So I want kids to understand too that, hey, it's okay to make mistakes. Nobody's going to tell you, we look back and I think we can all find a place where we might have not been kind to someone. Well, that's a form of bullying. And what I want kids to understand is, again, through this book is, which we talk about there's a scene in there where my character falls off a bike and kids are laughing, and that happens, but understand, also be tough enough to understand that, say, hey, I can take that. And if I can't find friends that are going to support me in the immediate area, I'll look for some other ones. Don't give up. Don't be alone. I don't want kids to be alone.
Yeah. And in that case, Will had his, in the story, but in life, Will had his mother to deliver that message. We don't all have, Will's mom to give us that important message. Hopefully we have somebody to really encourage us. But that's why I think this is a great way to, to use Will's story and just share it,
And it's also, Will, a great way to honor the friends you lost. What would you want people to know about, those people who, the friends you lost who ran into that building to save others?
Oh, and Alan, thank you for asking about that, because we honor them in the book. Antonio Rodriguez, Christopher Amoroso, Dominic Pizzulo, my teammates that we lost. And basically what I'm showing is their courage, their bravery, and, that I want children to understand that this is regular people that they're going to grow up to be. These are mothers and fathers. And when they look at this book, they can also know that, there's always going to be heroes out there. I always love the quote by Edmund Burke, all that is necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to stand by and do nothing. And I tell kids, there's always going to be good men and women that are going to step up to the plate when there's evil. And Dominic, Antonio, and Chris are those men. They stepped up and they gave their lives, to try to save other people. So I honor them, by talking about them. As long as I breathe and walk, I always talk about them and I share the story. And at this point, 20 years later, they're not going to intimately know these human beings, but they're going to know that there are people like them out there. And like I said, it could be a child whose mother's a police officer, whose father's a firefighter, whose mother's a nurse. They'll start realizing, hey, you know what? We're going to always be okay because we have people that are going to step up. And when we lose people, including just our family members, I always tell people the way you never let go or let them die is by talking about them. I always tell, we lost my mother-in-law and father-in-law in 16 and then in 17 back to back. And the way I keep them alive, and I tell everybody, is by telling funny stories about them when we laughed, telling brave stories about like Antonio, Chris, and Dominic. So for those kids out there that are listening, or people out there listening, if you've lost a loved one, the way we keep them alive is bringing up their memories and talking about them. And that's why we as human beings should strive to be good people, because you're never going to bring into your grave your materialistic things, your titles. but we leave behind are great memories that other people will talk about us, and that's our legacy.
And it's so interesting you say that, because I've lost both my parents many years ago, and I know I have friends who have a difficulty of dealing with death or speaking about it or acknowledging. And I always say it's so important that if you know anybody who's to say something to your friend, give them a hug. That's why during COVID, I really hated the amount of people who died and we were not able to pay tribute to them or have a funeral where you get to hug somebody, because I think those things are so important. Being able to be in a room and laugh and share those memories help us all grieve and move on, And I think COVID was a really difficult for so many people who had to, say goodbye to their family or friends.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, as a person who almost died, I've always said to my wife and to my family members, if I died, I want happiness for you. I want you to move forward and be happy. And I know the way we honor all those people that we've lost from COVID or were lost during COVID and couldn't be there at their funerals is by living a fruitful life and being kind to other people. When we do that, it's the way I feel we're living for them.
Well, you're so positive. What do you attribute, because you lived through, I mean, it wasn't a war, but those two buildings coming down on you is not a light moment in your life. What do you attribute your positive outlook and helping you to where you are today?
I think it's basically my upbringing. I think upbringing is so important. My mom was always there. My dad, even though he worked two jobs, was always there to talk to me, guide me. I tell people today, when you sit down at dinner, make sure you sit down at dinner with your kids, shut the cell phones off, talk, teach them to be good human beings, inspire them, and always let them know that, just life is going to be tough. Listen, the reality is life is tough, and it doesn't really care what we think or how we feel. We have to build ourselves up to be strong, to be positive. And I look at it this way. You can go one way or the other. You can be positive, or you can be negative. The road to positiveness, it could be hard, but the gifts and what you get at the end is fruitful. Being negative, it doesn't help you. You're just going to go into a dark place. And like I said, life is short, and you deserve to be happy. So I attribute it mostly to my upbringing and surrounding myself by good people. Remember, guys, if you're around people that are negative, you need to find new friends. You need to find new outlets, because why be attached to negativity? Find positivity. It's out there. It is out there. And all you have to do is reach out and try to grab it.
Now, I know you said you're not doing this for a living, but you need to be speaking for a living, Will.
Yeah, no. Believe it or not, a lot of times when I go do speaking engagements, I tell my wife I don't feel like doing this, because I actually talk about the story. I go into the death of my friends, and it's hurtful. But
yeah, of course,
when I'm done, people come up to me and talk to me, and that's what inspired this book, as well as my other book that's coming out, is people that come up to me and said, I needed to hear that today. A quick story I'll share with you. I was speaking to a large group, and I stood up for 2 hours, which kills me because I got a bum leg. But this one young lady came up to me and she said, I needed to hear this today. My daughter tried to commit suicide. My son's a drug addict, and I just lost my job. And all I could do was hug her and say, look, it's tough, but you're going to keep going forward. You're going to figure out how to help your daughter understand that her life's important. Your son, get him off drugs, and you're going to find a new job. And she goes, I needed to hear that. She was a single mom dealing with this. And, so those are the moments that after I speak make it worthwhile. It makes it worthwhile. And the kids are the best too, because kids just have great questions, So I'm blessed in that aspect. I don't do it for a living. It's usually word of mouth. People reach out to me. And I'm blessed because I've learned a lot from those people. And another point to what your question was, is how do I keep positive? A lot of these people keep me positive.
That's really great. Charles, what do you think you learned partnering with Will?
Well, everything we're talking about now, his attitude, his thoughts about, life and family. Yeah, that's how can I not digest that? And that's now, I think about these things and, apply them in my own life. But, I'm so grateful for this project. I had the opportunity in working with Will to really bring an incredible story to life that that agrees with every bone in my body. And I'm sure I know the messages are great, and whomever reads it, I feel like they're going to get a benefit from hearing Will and learning a little bit about what he went through. So, yeah, I've loved working with him on this.
And what are you working on now, Charles? Do you have another project you're working on?
No, I don't have another project just yet. Will and I are still sort of in the phases of, getting to talking to people about the book, getting it out there a little bit. It's still very much a work in progress, and on that front. And just getting on with the kids, their schools, their needs. What we're doing this summer. So just trying to, juggle those balls for now. But yeah, I definitely want to do another. I'll be working on another book shortly, I'm sure.
What do you think both of you learned during the pandemic that you maybe didn't know about yourselves? During quarantine.
You want to go ahead, Charles?
Charles, do you want to go first?
Charles.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, I think during this pandemic, we had my two children and, my wife and I working and learning from home for, the year. And, it was a lot of together time. It wasn't always easy. It wasn't always rosy. There were arguments and bickering and times when we were all going a bit crazy, but, it was a really amazing time for us to be together, cook together and all that. So I just realized how much I love them and just spending time with them during this period. I'm going to cherish this year. I was very fortunate to be able to work remotely and kind of be close to my kids. I think it was in some ways a gift for that. And then to be able to really work with Will on this project, I just, there was no swim practice. There was no dance class, for a lot of, I had a lot more time than I normally have. And I, gladly applied it to this project, and I was able to prove to myself that I could do this. I was a bit intimidated. I didn't want to let Will down. I mean, I knew I could do something. I knew I could put something together for him, but I wanted him to be happy. I wanted him to be pleased with, how his story looks on paper with the pictures and everything else. And, I feel great about that. So I certainly, I'm feeling good, I got to say.
Good. Were you emailed the cover of the book, or were you able to see it in person with Charles? Because I know how happy
he emailed me. Yeah, it was all via email.
Okay.
And I remember the first time I saw it, it was just like, wow, okay. And it takes a village. I tell everybody, sometimes like I thought, how do I do this? Well, you start reaching out, you start looking, and I was very blessed to have Charles, who's a great illustrator. I mean, without him, I don't think the book would have the inspiration of it. Everybody loves the drawings, the illustration. So, and going back to your question, the one thing I learned about, I guess myself during COVID was that it's not what I learned. It's kind of just reinforcing that you can get to your goals. I mean, here's a goal that I kind of had once I talked to his brother-in-law, like, all right, let's get this book done. And we got it done. So again, whatever dreams you have out there, keep pushing toward them, because you're able to achieve them. And sometimes you're not going to do it by yourself. It takes a village. And for me, it took a village, and we're here because of that today.
It's a great
And the only thing I'll add to that is that with any kind of project you work on, and it's, as the older I get and I reflect on these things, it's having the ability to stick with something even when the fun part has gone. like, and I know my fun part, there's always that early part of the project where, oh, this is great, it's all coming together, it's magical, and look at this and look at that. And then there's that period where maybe the creative part is more complete than, and now there's housekeeping to be done or some sort of other element. And, how many times, Will, did we go over the copy, looking for typos, reflecting on how to word things, and the Spanish translation, and it's just like making a movie. It's like there's the fun part of it, and then there's that grinding part where you just got to get to the finish line, and it's not always easy. But when you do, you feel, it's certainly, there's no other feeling like it. So it's just reinforcing that part of it. Don't give up.
What a time. It's, the 20th anniversary too. Your story, Will, was featured in Oliver Stone's movie. What was that experience like, seeing your life reflected on screen?
It was educational, inspirational, educational because, I think a lot of us sit back, I did at least, how hard could it be to make a movie? And then I saw the behind the scenes and how hard people really worked at it. Was educational, inspirational because I again, it took a village. I was blessed to have a great group of people that wanted to tell a story. And, anybody who knows Oliver, who I love very much, they'll say, hey, he's a conspiracy guy. He didn't do that. He just told a story. He wanted to tell a story. And again, that brings us back to September 12th, where it didn't matter what your political views were. It was just about us, American, inspiring people. And Oliver, people don't realize, especially today, the younger people, he was a combat vet. Platoon is his story. And he took our story and honored those that we lost, and more importantly, honored humanity by showing how we came together that day. And that was the main purpose of that movie. We told him, look, we're not doing this for money or fame. We're here to tell a story, and we're the two survivors from underneath it. And the most impactful point of that movie for me is where people see us in the concourse, and we're showing you how civilians from all different parts of the world and ethnicities and religions were just helping each other. There was a lot of love. I tell people that all the time. There was a lot of evil that day, but what I saw was more love.
Crazy. And again, when you talk about September 12th, God, I wish we were in a place like that. You would think that the pandemic should have, put us in that same feeling of where, how we all felt on September 12th, that nobody, we were all one. We all wanted to hug everybody, we all wanted to just make everybody smile,
we still have those moments. I mean, you look at Miami right now, what's going on with the building collapse. People, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you are politically or where you stand. I mean, just hearing the mayor and Governor DeSantis say, listen, we don't need any more money. We don't need any more supplies. We're overwhelmed with that. That still shows you that we love each other. And I want people to understand that today.
That's
I know, turn off the news for a week. You're going to feel better. And then when there's a tragedy, you see that people come together, and it doesn't matter whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, we care about each other. And I want people to understand that at the end of the day, when I was buried, people came to my aid, and it didn't matter what I believed in, what color skin I am. And I don't want people to lose focus of that. We're Americans. We're strong. And we are the greatest nation on earth. No mistake about it. Whether you're, straight, gay, you like soccer, you like martial arts, you like whatever, you're allowed to do that in this country. You can't do that in other countries. And I tell people this. That's why I defended this country. That's why I almost died for this country, is for us to be allowed to do the things that we love to do without fear. And that's something this country has, and we still have it. So don't ever think that the red, white, and blue's falling apart. Those colors don't run, and we care about each other.
I can't think of a better way to end this show, Will Jimeno, at all. Seriously, you are such a pleasure to speak to. Charles as well. Best of luck with the book. Immigrant American Survivor is out now, Amazon.com. You can go to the 9/11 Memorial Bookstore, their 9/11 Memorial store, and pick it up. Pick up a copy today and share it with your children. That's the important message. Will, before you go, though, I wanted to hear, because I know you have another book coming out in August. Tell us, Sunrise Through the Darkness.
Sunrise to the Darkness, a book I've been trying to put together for a long time. And unfortunately, people were like, hey, we've heard your story. And it's not about my story. It's about my story on recovery, learning how to live with post-traumatic stress disorder or any darkness, whether it be drug abuse, sexual abuse, child abuse. It's just that darkness. And I really open up about how I've been able to live with that. It's something you live with. And anybody listening to me right now, if you're in a dark place, understand that I want you to find your sunrise, and I want you to be able to understand that you can. I'm no different than you. Sunrise to the Darkness comes out August 16th. Right now, it's on pre-order at universityprofessorspress.com. You can Google it. It's a good book, and I even have my wife that has a chapter in it, which to get my wife to speak is something very difficult. But my co-author, Michael Moltz, was able to have her open up, because we also touch about the secondary PTSD. It's the people that are around someone who's dealing with the darkness that also has to suffer. So again, if you have, you're dealing with a spouse that's a drug abuser, sex abuser, alcohol abuser, maybe you're trying to help that person, but you're also dealing with your own struggles and darkness. So it's a book that opens up people's mind and let them know they're not alone. That's the main thing. I want people to let them know whatever problems you're going through, there's thousands of people like you. Just understand you're not alone. So Sunrise to the Darkness, I'm proud of it. I hope that people Google it. And again, it's at pre-order right now, universityprofessorspress.com.
And you said it earlier. I mean, your kids were affected,
Yeah, and I wasn't going to allow that to happen. We have to understand, when we are whole, when we are happy, that is projected around us. And when we're not, that's also projected. So if you love your family, you're going to fight hard. And always remember, love yourself. And there's nothing wrong with loving yourself, because when you love yourself, you project love.
Anytime you want to come back, you let me know. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Really. I wish you the best of luck with the book.
Thank you, Alan. Thanks for having us here.
You're so welcome. Yes. Stay well. Stay well, everybody.
Take care.
Bye, guys. You got it. Thanks to Charles and Will for being here. I mean, inspirational beyond anything I've had on the show, I feel. I love those messages. Remember, you can pick up his book at Amazon.com or the 911 bookstore. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, you can do so down below. Turn on the notifications and you get a reminder for all upcoming shows. Have a great day, everybody. I will see you tomorrow with pop singer Wills. Come meet Wills tomorrow here in the Locher Room. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.